Welcome to the Live Up podcast, where we rewatch the movies from our youth to see if they live up. We will review, discuss, and score whether the movie lives up to us now as adults and whether it will live up to kids today. I'm Jess Latterman.
And I'm Amanda Treat. Before we get to today's film, we actually have some listener feedback that we thought worth sharing. So
hit me with it.
This is 3 different episodes we've received feedback on. The first one, regarding our Silence of the Lambs episode, I have been corrected by more than one person that mock turtlenecks are back, baby.
I don't believe them.
All of their unfashionable glory. I was sent a photo from the LL Bean in Burlington, Massachusetts, showing that they have mock turtlenecks on sale, alive and well. And they were not all burned, as I had previously said. And then I had a second person tell me that her college-age daughter was out buying mock turtlenecks, honey, and that they're all the rage this winter.
Just because Jodie Foster wore
get ready
doesn't mean you should wear it.
No, but it's a thing again.
I don't like it.
Then also, we have some feedback on our Beetlejuice episode, which I need to clarify. We recorded that mere hours before Lauren Boebert got herself kicked out of the theatrical performance of Beetlejuice, because
Definitely
we would have talked about that. With that said, I found out recently that the Beetlejuice sequel just wrapped up filming about a mile from my house. And I missed the whole thing because I was in Japan, but I was getting text messages. Some of my friends and neighbors were saying that Jenna Ortega was riding a bike around the neighborhood, and that after the shoot each day, Tim Burton was coming out and signing autographs.
I can't believe you missed that, because we've done 2 episodes now featuring Tim Burton directing.
I know. We've done 3 Tim Burton movies.
Oh,
so
that's
far,
right. Edward Scissorhands.
Yes. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and then Beetlejuice. So yeah, that would have been phenomenal. I absolutely would have crashed that set, particularly to see if I knew anyone working on it, because that's all my former colleagues. Local 481, shout out.
It's more really like missed connections rather than listener feedback, because it's like we almost recorded a day after Lauren Boebert did her thing, and you were almost home for filming of Beetlejuice 2, which is like such a funny coincidence that they were shooting it near your house. It's so random.
I know. Missed everything. I totally missed it. And then finally, we have some feedback from our Robin Hood Prince of Thieves episode, where Jess had specifically assigned me to go to Thanksgiving dinner and ask my mother if Kevin Costner was hot or not. And we went and took that way beyond just asking one person. I have multiple ladies of a certain age, and I should clarify, straight ladies of a certain age, who are chiming in on the hot or not debate. And I think the results were actually very split. We had surveys who voted that, yes, he was hot in 1991.
Despite the mullet.
And some of them still think today. But yeah, someone described him as having hot dad vibes in Field of Dreams, which had not occurred to me. But then we had another half of our surveys who said, nope, not my type, and then all unanimously offered Colin Firth as being their type without even being asked.
Even part of the multiple choice.
I didn't prompt that at all, but yeah, no, that came up a few times that I'm not into him, but Colin Firth.
So random.
Whatever that's worth. So if you want to read more about our extremely scientific survey about whether Kevin Costner is hot or not, you can find our blog post on that on liveuppod.com.
Good plug, Amanda. And I'll say there's been some, for Prince of Thieves, we got some feedback on people who confirmed that Christian Slater is quintessential Gen X. And this lesbian over here didn't give a shit about Christian Slater, but I get it. It's fine. It's fine.
All right, for real now. Let's get to today's episode. We are kicking off our 2023 holiday season with a Christmas film that all of my French colleagues say is called Mom, I Miss the Plane.
Is that the title
in France?
Oh, that's funny.
That's the title in France. It's 1990's Home Alone. Jess, what is your history with Home Alone?
To me, this is a bona fide classic. I watched it all the time as a kid, whether it was on TV, renting it on VHS. I did not watch it on Laserdisc, not this one, unlike some others. I watched it endlessly. I think I even would watch this outside of the holiday season. And I've watched it with my kids now, like 3 years in a row. So I'm excited to do this one.
Oh, yeah.
This episode. I'm psyched.
Awesome.
What about you, Treat?
I remember seeing this in the theater when it first came out.
Theater. Such good memory.
This one, I think the whole neighborhood went together. I remember like all of the kids from the neighborhood and all of their parents. I think we at least took up a whole row, if not a whole section of the movie theater, because there was a lot of us. It was like McCallister house level of children running chaotically in that theater. And I think this was the first film, or at least that's the first film I remember just completely losing it, laughing so hard at everything that was going on the screen, like uncontrollably, painfully laughing, couldn't stop because it just kept escalating and escalating and escalating. And there's still scenes as an adult that get me. Like it still
lands. Yeah.
Although now as an adult, a lot of my thoughts are about the orthopedic copays that Harry and Marv are going to have to pay. After this.
So painful.
Good God, there's going to be so many x-rays. They're going to be in physical therapy for like a year. It's excruciatingly painful watching them go through
like
all that.
40 bones each. Yeah.
Oh my God, so many contusions.
I mean, there have been other movies we've done that you've watched it, I haven't, or vice versa. I think this one is more universal than some of the other movies we reviewed. People our age have watched it at least like 3 times. Mostly.
Yeah, no, there was no escaping this movie when it came out. It was enormous. It was the #1 box office grossing comedy of all time until this summer when Barbie came out and finally beat it. Like, it's been holding that record since
that
1990.
blows me away because it doesn't surprise me in modern times where the box office is hard to eclipse because of whether it's pandemic or streaming. But the fact that it held it from 1990, that is crazy.
No, this was huge.
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow.
Well, Jess, for any of our listeners who might have been living under a rock since 1990, do you want to share a quick recap of what the movie Home Alone is about?
I will, for those living under a rock, or if you've forgotten. So, Home Alone, I suppose what it's actually about is just how lost we were without cell phones, because in a world without them, we don't have alarms, boarding passes on apps on our phones, and we may just leave our kid on another continent by accident. So we were lost, and thank God that technology came around. And I don't actually think I need to explain the actual plot. We all know what this is.
It's pretty clear. Mom, he missed the plane.
That's actually kind of a funny title.
I have a whole theory on why it's called that in France. After I heard them say that, this came up last Christmas. We had a very lengthy discussion about it, but if you're watching this movie as a French child, the goal of the movie is the McCallisters need to get to France. And they're all trying to get to France. And the problem is,
I missed the plane. Yeah,
so he missed the plane. He wasn't on the plane. Kevin didn't go to France. There's your problem. It's not that he's home alone fighting burglars. It's the fact that he's not in France. So that's just my theory on why they named it that. It starts with Kevin charging into his mom's bedroom being super annoying, but specifically complaining that Uncle Frank won't let him watch a movie because it's inappropriate. And watching this now, I was like, oh, that's exactly what our podcast is all about. Like, no, Kevin, you should not be watching Angels with Filthy Souls. That's inappropriate.
Considering that you and your 4-year-old sister once watched Silence of the Lambs, I feel like that movie seems fine. Wait, I didn't ask you. Man. Hold on. Have you not seen this since you were a kid?
No, I watched this periodically, but what I found, since we take a focused viewing of it, and I'm sitting here with my little notebook taking notes for the podcast, there's a lot of stuff that I never noticed that I noticed for the first time in this viewing. Because I think the past few years, we'll watch it during Christmas, but I'll have it on in the background while I'm decorating the tree or something. And I'm not looking at it as closely as I just looked at it for this podcast. It felt surprising still, which was amazing to me because I've seen this, dozens and dozens of times. Yeah. I mean, we had the VHS cassette of this, and every Christmas it was like on repeat. You know, after we watched Rudolph 6 times, we would put Home Alone on.
You need a cleanser after Rudolph, though, so it's fine.
Yeah, so I've watched this a lot, but this still felt fresh, weirdly.
Yeah, so shall we talk about Kevin?
So, this is Macaulay Culkin playing Kevin McCallister. This is the first time a lot of us saw him, even though he did pop up in Uncle Buck and some other lesser-known movies before this. But my God, like if you could be in one movie and never have to work again, that was Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone.
Yeah, very.
He was so pervasive after that. Like you couldn't escape Macaulay Culkin for the early 90s. Just wow, he was everywhere.
Pretty iconic role.
But he's perfect,
so perfect
for this, because you've got this character. He's gonna come in. He's obnoxious but simultaneously adorable, and it's perfect for him harassing his parents, which I can feel more now as an adult, just watching his entrance and the way he just flops himself over the suitcase that she's trying to pack. And it's just so annoying. But at the same time,
he's the
really
cutest
adorable.
kid on the planet.
So,
he's so cute.
Then he's got this super skill of screaming in a way that's just so comedic.
I feel like there's
amazing.
probably ringtones out there of him screaming with the aftershave. Yeah, very iconic.
Oh, if somebody had that ringtone,
You'd
though,
want to
I
punch
would
him in the
really
face,
not want to
but
be around
still.
them. Turn that off. Put it on vibrate, man. And then, he's just, his ability to just like widen his eyes in terror at the right moment. I mean, he's a great child actor. And watching it now as an adult, it's just like, oh, look at him in his adorable little cable knit sweater. And like, look at him in his swanky little pajamas and his little hat. Jess is wearing a pom-pom cap, but it's not Christmas colorful. She's dressed in black, more like the Wet Bandits.
That's true. I was trying to find a hat for the.
She's doing what she can. Doing what she can.
If I had a black skull cap, I'd be dressed like Marv. But I went with the pom pom to dress sort of like Kevin. So, yeah. But he's adorable.
He wins you over. And even as an adult, when you're watching it, I remember as a kid instantly connecting, like I see everything from his point of view, because you're watching him react to how it seems like everyone's ganging up on him and everyone's telling him what to do, and his older brother's a bully and Uncle Frank is a jerk to him. But even as an adult, you very quickly come to see it from his point of view, and I think that's just done so well in this film. Like you're really transformed into Kevin's worldview really quickly, and it's a fun place to be because he's like tobogganing down the staircase,
having ice cream for breakfast,
eating all the marshmallows. Awesome.
So for kids today, and I think there are other parents out there who've recently watched this with their kids, like now people our age, and they instantly relate to him. They think he is so fun. They love going sledding down the stairs. They love the montage of him eating ice cream for breakfast. So for listeners, this is like, if you don't remember, and of course you remember, it's like after Kevin realizes he's home alone and he can get to do all the things. He's jumping on the bed. He's like doing all this stuff. He's in his brother's room. He's all by himself.
Yeah. Jess, if you were left home alone now without Elena and the kids, would you be jumping on the bed and eating ice cream sundaes and like shooting a BB gun at the laundry door
to get a robber in the balls? Yeah, I mean, maybe ice cream for breakfast. But it's basically like a kid's dream. It's a kid's dream in like a safe space in some ways, that it's like this, sort of the reverse of a cleaning montage. It's like he messes up the house, and it's just sort of fun for kids, I think, to watch another kid just do that completely carefree.
Okay. While you mention that, here's where I will call BS. There is no way Kevin McCallister cleans up that whole house after everything he does. But it's spotless except for Buzz's room.
Right, because he destroyed Buzz's room. If you don't remember that, listeners, he like tries to climb on the shelf to get Buzz's money.
To get the money, yeah.
Yeah, and like
knocks over the tarantula terrarium and just everything destroyed, which is hilarious.
I really feel like even as a kid, I was like, how's he going to clean all this up? Like,
yeah,
there's like tar on the stairs. I mean, how is he clean?
Yeah, no, and like broken glass all over the place and just smashed and destroyed and tripwires, and like, don't forget you left some of that stuff there. Your parents are going to be in the hospital next.
I know. Yeah, but I guess like you forgive it. I still forgive it as an adult.
Yeah, no, I mean, this movie is just complete chaos.
Yeah.
And let's assume Kevin cleaned everything up.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt of having, it's the cleaning montage we didn't see.
Yes. He cleaned that whole house up in like less than 3 hours.
I know. Yeah, there's no way.
No way.
Because like every other second, those with kids, they'd be like, Mom, where's the cleaner? Like there's no way that would ever happen. But speaking of montages, the kid montage of him home alone is very fun. Still fun for kids today.
Yeah.
And then at some point, slowly throughout the movie, when it transitions to more of a reality and he's home alone and he has to go get milk, he has to do his own laundry, make himself dinner. Then you transition to a montage of him doing adult things. And in some ways, it's really sweet. There's like a sweetness to it. It's not sad, really.
There's a sweetness to it, but also the things they chose to represent adulthood or like suburban adulthood, like him walking with the grocery bags and having the bottoms fall out and all the stuff just falls over the sidewalk. And you feel that. You're just like, oh, yeah, I hate when that happens. Like,
Right?
that's the symbol of
Yes.
you're an adult now and your groceries are all over the sidewalk.
And you have to clean it up. Like, there's no
Yep.
mom and dad to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
Although that still got a laugh out of my kids.
yeah, no, it's hilarious, but it's also, as an adult, you're just like, oh,
I know, God.
Kevin, hold on to your childhood, man. Those groceries went everywhere. Hold on to your childhood.
And next time, bring a tote bag, maybe. I don't know.
It only gets worse.
Yeah, but it's the sweetness that I like, because it does go back.
Yeah.
You have the kid stuff, and the sweetness, I'd say, still walks the line where it's kid sweet and it's not cheesy. Because I think in a lot of kids' movies, the kids' characters are too cherub-like sometimes, and he's not.
No.
And it's still poignant in a way.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of heart, I would say. Or, he's wanting to have his family back, ultimately, and that's mixed perfectly with the amount of violence they throw in at the end of this movie.
With the crowbars to the chest and all that.
Yeah, just so much pain. But deep down, he just wants his family back.
Aww.
Oh. Side note on Kevin, he is an untapped super engineer. Before
Right?
he even sets up all the traps in his house for the wet bandits, there's that evening where he's faking a party and he's got the train set up with like a Michael Jordan cutout to make it look like there's a person in the window, and he's got all the mannequins because I think his mom they never say what she does for a living, but I think she's like a fashion designer.
Yeah,
like
there's all that weird stuff in the
basement.
Yeah.
Basement. Yeah, so he rigs those up and they're dancing around and making it look like there's this huge active party, but it's just like him and a train set and a couple of mannequins doing the thing. Very clever.
It is clever.
Then later, and I admire this a lot as an order muppet, but also as a project manager, when he goes to set the traps for the burglars, he's got a extensive plan. Like, he has it all out on paper and it's ready to be built. Like, he did the design work on that, and I really admire that.
Like,
so,
by
good job,
hand.
Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't use some computer program. Like, that was by hand.
It was by hand and crayons. So he's got phenomenal instinct for engineering. Good job,
I'd say
Kevin
that's so
McCallister.
relatable for kids. And I even remember, do you remember as a kid liking it? Because I loved that as a kid. He was also really smart. And of course, he did all these things. And it makes you think you could do these things. And you sort of buy into it as a kid. And I think my kids also like instantly bought into that and thought it was so clever and fun.
Yeah, you see him work up to it too, because initially he's just scared of the furnace in the basement.
Right.
And he's gonna like build up his level of like, all right, cool and collected. Let's focus on how am I gonna throw paint cans at these guys. All right.
Yeah, and there's the sweetness that he has, and when he eventually kind of has like a heart to heart with his neighbor. I mean, there's
that's such a
sweet
good
part,
scene.
but it's also like he's expressing how, well, I'm scared of my basement. It's such a kid thing to say, and there's so many good points in this movie where he's not an unrealistic kid, even though he's basically like a master's degree engineer. He's not unrealistic to kids to relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I definitely related to the tobogganing down the stairs. Did you ever take a laundry basket and ride down the stairs?
Oh, of course I did.
Kid?
Who didn't? I can't believe I didn't break my neck.
Yes. Nowadays, I would never, ever, ever go near that. But back in the day, we were invincible.
Straight to the ER. Do not pass go. Yeah.
All right. So Kevin has two wonderful parents, but they forget him. So
because they didn't have
wonderful.
a cell phone. That's why. Yeah.
Well, and I noticed this for the first time. There's the scene right at the beginning where Kevin gets blamed for attacking Buzz and they knock the milk over and the Pepsi goes everywhere and the pizza's destroyed, etc. But they throw his plane ticket out. Did you notice that?
I did notice that. I remember noticing that as a kid.
I never noticed that.
Yeah.
No, that was the first time. It was like, oh, and the napkins full of milk go in the trash. I'd never noticed that his plane ticket was in there. But it makes so much more sense when they get to the gate. And
she's
the
counting.
Woman's taking, and the woman's counting everything. And it's like, all right, onto the plane, quick.
Yeah.
And doesn't say anything like, oh, you're missing someone.
So I remember catching that as a kid. And then when I saw it again as an adult, I was like, oh, right. This is in there because I have to explain why they got on the plane one short. But for my kids now, I actually did turn to them and I was like, there used to be plane tickets that are paper.
They used to be paper. You used to have to get them in the mail ahead of time.
I mean,
there wasn't a kiosk that would print them for you at the airport. You needed them in the mail.
Right. And it was important. You had to hold on to it. I mean, so I did have to explain, because I don't think my kids realized what that was, but that was thrown out. It's nothing bad. It's not like dated, like unrealistic. It's just sort of funny.
There's so much going on in that scene. I always miss that. You know, it's like Fuller's getting smushed against the wall. Kevin's fighting Buzz, and there's just food being thrown. Not thrown. It's just everywhere. And yeah, it's just a messy scene. I did not notice the plane ticket go in the trash can. I did notice also later when Peter, the father, is talking about drying the tickets off in the microwave. And it just, in my head now, I'm like, does he know how a microwave works?
Right. Like, wouldn't they catch fire?
You wouldn't put a plane ticket in a microwave to dry it. It would get really soggy and hot.
So Peter McCallister, I don't think he's the sharpest tool in the shed. I mean,
Peter's played by John Hurd. He's just kind of the like broiest dad. You know, he probably works in finance.
Has a lot of sweater vests. But like, I'm like, he seems like such an idiot, but yet could afford that giant house. But that's another story.
Well, no, that's definitely a question I have as an adult. Like, who are these people?
Right.
This neighborhood they're living in is so swank. They've got 5 kids. They have so many Christmas lights on that house. Their electric bill, because these aren't LEDs, people. Like, remember back in the day, stringing up the lights like that? That would be thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. Like, in electric bill extras for putting that many Christmas lights up. Crazy. So, yeah, these people are very wealthy. The Wet Bandits identify their house as the Big Tuna there, or the Silver Tuna, rather. Big Tuna was a football coach, wasn't he?
I don't know. I'm a bad lesbian. I don't know. But he's also, like, I think Peter's also classically a detached dad. Like, at the end, when they're finally reunited, he, like, walks in and he just, like, ruffles Kevin's hair and he's like, you're a funny kid, and just walks away.
Oh, yeah. What a funny guy. And that's all he's going to say about the whole thing.
I was like, oh, man, you're so detached.
And then we've got his wife, Kate McCallister, played by Catherine O'Hara, who we were fawning over during our Beetlejuice episode.
Yes, her second appearance on this podcast.
Good. And she's playing it very straight here. You know, she's just going to be the mom and reacting to everything that happens. But wow, she's just so good at like holding it in and then exploding at the right moments.
Yeah, I appreciate it. She's sort of like an early version of a Karen at times.
At the Scranton airport scene, she's absolutely a Karen.
Definitely a Karen. She's yelling
out on them.
Yeah, she's yelling at the airport folks. She's, you know, freaking out. Although, of course, you would freak out. But she just has like a Karen tone, if you will. With others.
She's very sharp when she speaks to others.
Yeah. But you kind of, I mean, she's great. I always love her. I think she's so funny. And she has some great lines, I guess, that are great lines to me now because they're so dated. When they finally get to Paris and they want to call people back at home because, of course, there are no cell phones. She's like, get out your change and call everyone you know. And they're like, at a bunch of payphones. I love that
because she's got this big, fat personal phone book.
So big. It's the size of a Bible.
But she's traveling with it.
What?
Like, do people do that?
She has this like Mary Poppins purse that she like pulls out this Bible and has like basically this messy address.
Like call everyone in it. It's like thousands of people and like pages and pages and pages of paper. Yeah. Oh my God. I was laughing so hard at that because I remember people used to have those back in the 80s, but I didn't think you traveled with them. Like,
I guess if you're doing postcards, no one's in your phone again.
Not from France. I don't know.
But she's great. I love her.
She's so good.
And she's funny. She's not really unlike in Beetlejuice, where we reviewed her, she has a lot of great comedic kind of performances to do. She's not really the star here, but she's still great.
No, and she's trying to react like a normal person would react to all of these situations, but it's perfectly over the top with the iconic line, sitting bolt upright on the plane and yelling, Kevin, at the top of her lungs. So good. But then her whole, like, she has to travel back through all these different airports and then get in the van with the polka players. I've had trips that, you know, like, flights get canceled, or like the worst, I had to travel back during Hurricane Sandy. Got rerouted because the whole eastern seaboard was closed.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just trying to get to Boston. And did a Home Alone journey where it was like, I'm bouncing to like Amsterdam, to London, to Montreal. And then like literally these people and I were like, we're renting a car. We're driving to Boston through the hurricane.
Did you do that? Oh my God.
Yeah. And just like staying awake as long as she stayed awake. And that was my personal Home Alone journey. But just anyone who's had to travel with like a major disruption like that, and you're not sleeping and you haven't showered and you're just about to lose your mind, Catherine O'Hara perfect encapsulates what you're feeling at that moment. Like, she's so good at it. So love her. All right, we have two other major adult characters in this movie, and that would be Harry and Marv, played by Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. They are the Wet Bandits.
Oh my God.
The Wet Bandits.
The Wet Bandits, aka like the worst burglars on the planet. I mean, they're just terrible.
I was reading up on the making of this movie, and for some reason the costume designer decided to dress the two of them like they're Dickens orphans.
Because they kind of are dressed like that.
And
they
I
have like
see
gloves
it
with
now.
holes in it. Yeah.
Yeah, the fingerless gloves and like the little skull caps and like, you know, the way their collars are lifted up against the cold.
That's right.
And, you know, very bleak looking outfits. But it never occurred to me because they're not particularly fashionable, but they are dressed like Dickens orphans. So.
So random.
This was the first time I took any note of the fact that they're driving around in a plumbing van. And they're the Wet Bandits.
That's so funny.
And on the side of the plumbing van, it says, "Okay, plumbing and heating, you're flood control experts."
And I did not
that's
notice that.
The
that's
thing
so good.
that Marv does. He always floods the house after they've robbed it.
I know, which is like such a dick thing to do, and you don't realize as a kid what a dick thing to do that is until you're an adult. You're like, oh, Marv, don't do that.
Oh my God, your homeowners
just take their
insurance.
VCR, which is worth like $5.
Yeah. Like, that's the ultimate worst move of all the things they've done there.
But they're also just such terrible criminals, which is so funny. Like, they're robbing and...
Completely inept. Yeah.
Totally inept. Like, broad daylight, they're robbing. Like, after the Joe Pesci character cases his neighborhood, he's rolling down the window to yell at Kevin because he almost hits him in the street after he... You know, after Joe Pesci's character robbed a house, and then he and Marv follow him home. It's so bizarre. They're the worst criminals, but yet they're like my favorite criminals. Like
they're very endearing.
They
so have good. Really good rapport with each other. They're kind of adorable in their own weird criminal way. They're the first ones we're going to mention for ad-libbing lines.
Did they ad-lib a lot?
This is a Chris Columbus movie, but it comes up front and center. This was written by John Hughes. And you're not supposed to touch the script for a John Hughes movie. He's like an absolutist, and he was a producer on this, so he's there to enforce it. But Joe Pesci has a habit of cursing just from all the other movies he's been in.
Oh, yeah, because he's a gangster. Yeah, in all the other movies he's been in.
And like a lot of his lines from Casino or Goodfellas, that he's ad-libbing a lot of the profanity in that because it just felt natural to him.
Right, oh yeah.
So he was cursing on this film, and Chris Columbus had to tell him, like, try to say the word fridge.
But it's so funny because that's what's funny about Joe Pesci's character. He's at this contained rage all the time. And he's like, Marv, you're such an idiot.
And you hear it once you're listening for it. Like, he's like, fridge.
Yes.
Like, instead of saying a bunch of F-bombs. So he took it to heart, and he's ad-libbing a bunch of fridge swears. And then Daniel Stern just picked up on it and started ad-libbing a little bit here and there. He has the only curse word in the whole film, which I'd forgotten. When he drops his shoe through the dog door initially,
yeah,
he goes, shit, and picks it up, like sticks his
right.
hand through the dog door and picks it up. That wasn't in the script. He just did that.
He just did that.
Yeah.
The two of them, like, you could see if this movie was made today, you could see it being really dumb for adults, adult sensibilities for humor, but they're not dumb. It's still hilarious that they're not just in the dynamic with the big scene at the end with booby traps. They're funny throughout because they're kind of morons, but they're this really funny comic duo. The way that Joe Pesci picks on Marv is an idiot, but he's just so fucking funny at it that you just sort of accept it. And I just, even with the big scenes at the end with them, when they're getting their ass like completely handed to them by Kevin, their physical comedy is still funny, but it doesn't cross over to dumb for adults.
So I was reading that
at least in my opinion.
The two of them thought that this wasn't a movie that was going anywhere, and they were just like, let's have fun with it, and we're being over the top. So there's moments where you see, because Daniel Stern's very tall. Yeah. You see the way he's like walking into the, like,
he's very,
walking across the snow, and it just looks goofy. It looks like the abominable snow monster is crossing the yard, the way he's doing it, like, like, yeah. And that the two of them were just like, yeah, whatever. And then kaboom, it was a very big movie. But there's also a lot of trivia on the people they were considering casting for these two roles.
Oh, really?
Like originally they were thinking like, let's go De Niro instead of Pesci. Or like, there's all these very famous actors that it would have been, but it would have been a totally different movie. Like you need that Pesci energy. It would have been
slightly more sinister.
Yeah, because I think De Niro's more laid back, and like it just would have been like a cooler, more calculated.
Yeah, where they're going
coming at Kevin versus Pesci's just like explosively crazy.
Right.
So there's the scene where they're casing the McCallisters' house. I think they're ad-libbing these lines, but Joe Pesci's listing off all the reasons he really wants to hit that house. Like, oh yeah, they have all this like electronics. They have all these, expensive jewelry, and then he throws in odd marketable securities. Like,
oh
what?
Yeah, what is that?
Like, what are you gonna rob? Odd marketable securities. But then Marv, Daniel Stern character's like, in toys? So you get this very clear split between what the two of them are after. And you see later when they're hitting the neighbor's house that Daniel Stern's character is playing with the toys.
Yeah, he's opening all the presents.
Yeah, that he's just really this child at heart burglar.
It's like, he's like, if you sent a 9-year-old in to rob a house, that would be Marv. Like, they would break a bunch of shit and open all the presents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I admired this time around, the scene where they're saying, okay, we'll come back tonight. We'll wait till it's dark, go have dinner. We'll come back at 9 p.m. And they show up at 9 p.m. on the dot. They are very punctual about this robbery. So I admire that.
As an order muppet.
They stick to their word.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're very predictable. It allows Kevin to set things up just in time.
They're the first one joining the Zoom meeting at the appropriate time.
They really would be.
Yeah. They're not like, we don't have to wait a few more minutes for Harry and Marv. They just always
we got here early. We're here to rob your house early. All right. Well, there's many, many other characters in this movie, and we're gonna lump all of these characters together. The extended McCallister family.
Yeah, because there's a lot of kids.
This is the first time, because it's always been like, oh, so many kids running around this house, chaos. But the second this movie opened and I was focused on it, I was like, oh, they're Catholic. Oh, I get that now. Okay, that's why there's like 1 million kids.
There's a million kids. Meanwhile, my son was like, what is that building they're going in? Like when at some point Kevin is like, when he's being followed by the robbers and he realizes he's being followed and he ends up running into a church.
He jumps into the creche.
Oh, that's right. He does.
And dresses up as one of the shepherds.
But he thinks of the church, not like a police station or something. So like at some point when he then goes to church on Christmas Eve, which is the night that he, all the shenanigans happen, my son was like, what is that building? We have to be like, some people go to church on Christmas. What is that? Oh, good Lord.
If you're ever being chased by burglars, you should just jump into the creche. My grandmother always had a really prominent creche in her.
Honestly, like you're saying the word creche, and I have to be honest with you.
It's the little house that's reenacting where Jesus was born, but we used to fill it with like Ninja Turtles and like action figures and stuff. So like
So I've literally never heard the word crush before in my life.
Oh, yeah. No,
I know.
yeah.
Raised this Long Island Jew had like no idea what you're talking about for a few minutes, but now I get it.
Yep, nope. Irish Catholic from Boston. I got this one. Although I will say there is not usually a spare blanket lying around so you can like dress yourself up as a shepherd and hide in it.
So with the extended family.
Yeah, so in the extended McCallister family, and there's a million of them, but there's two who stick out because they're the bullies. First, we have Uncle Frank, who is just so phenomenally awesome and awful at the same time. He's not the bad guy in this movie, but he's worse than the bad guys.
Sneaky villain in there, because he's, the first, from the get-go, when like the pizza shows up the first night before they're all going to Paris, and Uncle Frank goes to get the pizza, and he's like, oh, it's my cousin's house. I'm not going to pay for pizza. This, by the way, young listeners, is before the days that you would do Grubhub.
Yeah, you had to have cash on hand to pay the pizza guy, and Uncle Frank's ducking out of it because he doesn't want to pay. And he chimes in with like inappropriate things at the worst moment. Like when they realize they've left Kevin, and what does he pop up? And he's like, well, if it makes you feel any better, I forgot my reading glasses. It's just like, nope, not helping. Not helping. And the one thing, I remember this as an adult, the more I see him do it, the more like irritated I get at this moment. When they're in France, he is at his sister-in-law's,
which, by the way,
apartment.
Was the nicest apartment I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, they live in like Montmartre.
Super fancy.
Super fancy. They have a view of the soccer court.
Amazing.
It's beautiful.
It's like palatial ceilings. It's a nice apartment.
Yeah.
It gives like Sigourney Weaver's New York City penthouse a run for its money, for sure, from Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Uncle Frank just walks into the kitchen and comes walking out with this whole shrimp platter and goes, attention, everyone, look what I found. And his sister-in-law across the room is like, Frank, those are for
I
later.
didn't even catch that.
And he just starts handing them out. And she's like, Frank? And he just ignores her completely and is like giving out the food.
Dick.
And taking all the credit for it. Oh my God, that like irks me so much as an adult. Just
what a jerk.
What a jerk. Yeah. No, he's the worst. And as adults, we're like, he's the real villain in this movie. Nobody wants to hang out with Uncle Frank. So for Kevin, his focus is more on his older brother, Buzz, who is
he's a classic bully.
Villain, older brother. Yeah, he's like the older brother on the Wonder Years, like just torturing the main character. He's got his tarantula, and he's got all his like stash of Playboys. This is the second appearance of Playboys in a Chris Columbus movie that we've reviewed.
First one being Adventures in Babysitting. That's right. Product placement, maybe? I don't know.
I think just a sign of the times.
Yeah, it is. He's also hilariously dumb, sort of like the Wet Bandits when one of his siblings or cousins was like, Buzz, are you worried about Kevin? We're all worried about Kevin. Meanwhile, 24 hours ago, they were telling Kevin to like that he's a disease. But now everybody's like, oh, Kevin.
Everybody except for Buzz is worried now.
Right. Yeah. Buzz is like, I'm not worried for 4 reasons. And I don't even know what the reasons are, but the 4 reasons are 1, 2, and D.
No, it's like A, 2, and D.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's completely out of order. It's like, we have smoke alarms. That's not really a reason, but okay, that's a reason to buzz.
2 is I'm not that lucky, which is funny.
Yes. Yeah. He's the one who spreads the rumor about the neighbor being the snow shoveler murderer. Like, he also incites. I would say he's both like a terrible resource, but a terrible resource for Kevin, I should say, because it's like, where are you going to get the firecrackers from? Where are you going to get the firearms from? Like Buzz's room. Buzz has all the weapons.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, he's a catalyst in some ways.
But he's really memorable. I mean, I remember thinking he was funny as a kid, and he's still kind of funny.
You get the split moment at the end where he gives not quite a high five to Kevin, was like, hey, pretty cool of you not to burn the house down. And you're like,
oh, that's right, some respect.
He's redeemed himself a little bit, and then the final line of the movie is just him screaming at the top of his lungs, Kevin, what did you do to my room? Which is such a great ending. It's like, oh, and status quo. We're back to where we were.
It is a great ending. Yeah. And of course, like, my daughter was like, it's because he destroyed his room. Like, of course, she's the older sibling. It's like horrified that the younger sibling went in and destroyed it.
His room. Yeah, it's absolutely trashed. There is that funny moment where Kevin's going through all his stuff and pulls out the photo of Buzz's girlfriend, just goes, Buzz's girlfriend, woof.
Yeah.
And that was in the script. And Chris Columbus, the director, felt that A, it's so funny, we got to keep it. But B, we can't have a photo of an actual girl right there, because that's just such a devastating thing
that's so
to
mean.
say to a girl. So they took the art director's son and put a wig on him and put makeup on it, and that's Buzz's girlfriend.
Get out of here. That's funny.
It's the art director's son.
Oh, man. That guy probably is like, I don't know if he's proud of this or probably.
Oh, I'm sure he's
like,
yeah.
I'm Buzz's girlfriend. And
I love details like that when they're making movies and they just have to like scramble for a solution to something and just come up with something completely random.
Right,
like
but
that.
it was a good call to not have it be like.
Yeah, they were like, we can't insult an actual like child. This would be really bad for anybody's self-esteem to have your photo held up with Macaulay Culkin going, Buzz's girlfriend, woof.
But getting back to like the house for a second, because yes, it's a huge house. It's an amazing house, but it's also decorated in the most 80s and 90s way possible.
And decorated for Christmas.
Oh, yeah. A Michael's exploded in there.
Oh, my God. Yeah, their Christmas wallpaper, that's not, it's wallpaper. It's supposed to be year-round, but these red and green wreath patterns everywhere.
And the bedspread on the parents' bedroom, I was like, that is the most 80s ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's
with the
like,
4-poster bed. Oh, I remember those.
Yeah, but it's like everything was like impossibly neon red and just so ugly. It was just a very 80s ugly house.
It's super Christmas. They've taken, it's like the Hallmark Christmas movie set design to 11. It's insane.
I know, but I don't think that that's what you would have noticed as like a kid in 1990.
No, as a kid, I was like, oh, it's a house. And
Yeah.
my parents, I remember my mom being like, it's a very expensive house. And I admired that now. The moment the family is gone and there's like that moment of calm where Kevin's just like shuffling through the house like, Mom?
Yeah.
I was admiring the house, just like, wow.
It's a lot. It's wide hallways. It's a lot of bedrooms. But they also have like funny 80s things, like a shitty little TV in the kitchen. Like it's all like, it's funny. Yeah.
Even their alarm clock that didn't go off because the power was cut. I was like, oh, everybody had that alarm clock. Yeah. I remember that alarm clock.
It belongs
it's kind of like
museum.
Fake wood.
Yeah.
The fake wood
takes up the
clock.
whole bedside table. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like wide and stubby. Ugh. Yeah, no, that was kind of a shockingly Christmassy 1990 house. All right, so next door to the McCallisters, and we don't ever get a first name on this character, but Old Man Marley, who lives next door.
It's essentially the Boo Radley character, as any good kids' movies has.
There's the rumor that he killed all these people and put the bodies in the salt, and he's just disposing of the bodies now. Like, fun rumor. That's a really good neighborhood rumor.
It is a good neighborhood rumor.
But he honestly brings so much heart into this movie.
Yeah.
And he wasn't in the original screenplay. They added this character in a rewrite. Yeah. And it adds so much to this movie.
He's the only adult who's like not a moron in this at the end of the day. And for folks who don't remember, he then saves the day because when the robbers eventually do just catch Kevin,
shows up with that snow shovel. Yeah. You know he's doing dangerous stuff with that snow shovel.
Yeah, right? He kicks and he like smacks him in the face. But you know, he does bring this heart. And I will say the first time that I had rewatched this with my kids a few years ago, I was like, oh yeah, the neighbor. I didn't remember him because he didn't resonate as much to me as a kid. But I really liked him as an adult because he does bring this heart. They have this great scene at the church where they're talking. You just realize, obviously, he's not a murderer. And he's just very sweet, but not cheesy. And it sort of gets me every time. I kind of love him.
There's, just moments of shock and Kevin making these wide-eyed faces at him like, oh my God, this guy's so scary. And when he sees Marley sitting across the aisle of the church and makes the shocked face again, Marley has this moment where he looks behind him like, is he reacting to me? And realizes like, oh, he is scared of me.
Oh,
and it's just this very devastating, like, it's very brief, but this moment of him looking around like, why, what is he scared of? Oh, it's me. Oh. And then he gets up and crosses the aisle, and they have this whole heart to heart, and they talk about what they're scared of, and they talk about family, and it's just really touching. And it is. It's such a good break from the intensity of, oh my God, your house is about to be invaded by these two adults, and what are you going to do about that? That it's nice to have this moment with another adult. Although that would be the moment to be like, I have a problem.
Right? Kevin, tell someone. If you see something, say something. Oh my God.
I will say, I think Marley's a little oblivious as well, because both at the church, he tells Kevin like, oh, you should be going home now. But he literally finds him later being hung up on a kitchen door hook by these two burglars, picks him up and is like, let's take you home, and puts him back in the house, home alone. Doesn't do anything, doesn't call the cops, doesn't interfere at all. Just, I guess, assumes his parents are home, and he's just wandering around being chased by burglars on his own.
I kind of wondered, like...
Don't know.
We referenced the Bible-size, like, address book that the Catherine O'Hara character had. I'm like, did she not have his number? Like, did she not call him?
I guess not.
I guess not. He's the murderer, so he doesn't get to be in the phone book. We don't keep up with the local
murderer. Yeah. So it's really beautiful at the end where you see out the window that Marley's reunited with his son and his granddaughter. And
it is.
It's snowing. It's beautiful. It's a very touching moment.
It is touching. And it's not touching to kids because it doesn't resonate with them in the same way. But as it's fun to find these moments in these movies that are fun to watch. But you rediscover these as like someone who's older, as we are, because we're ancient. But I appreciated it. And it wasn't cheesy. I mean, they could have played this really cheesy, and it really toes the line. It's not cheesy. It's just really sweet.
There is one more very prominent character in this, although he's barely in the movie. Very little screen time for this. And it's Gus Polinski, the polka king of the Midwest, played by John Candy.
I think I went my whole life thinking that, like, there are polka kings of...
I think there are polka kings.
Maybe there are.
That we don't actually know who they are.
It just seemed like such a real thing to me.
I think it was based on a real
person.
I think it was.
John Candy, though.
John Candy being John Candy just took it in a different... Yeah, just did his own thing with it. This is the ultimate character who got to ad-lib every single one of his lines.
We should remind people who he is in the plot. So he ends up, I guess, from Scranton. All the flights are canceled, and he ends up giving Catherine O'Hara's character a ride back to her house. So he's sort of like the last leg of this crazy journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
She has to spend the final few scenes of this film in the back of a budget box truck with a band of polka players who seem to be nonstop playing polka music the entire trip.
There's no windows in the back there, but they're playing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Must
there's
be
no
loud.
windows. Yeah. There aren't even, like, seats. I think they're just sitting on, like,
yeah, they're
suitcases
cargo, essentially.
Yeah. He was buddies with John Hughes, and John Hughes just gave him free rein. You're driving her, have some conversations, have some scenes, go nuts. And I had not noticed Catherine O'Hara is hearing everything that comes out of his mouth for the first time as he's saying it.
So good.
So there's the initial scene where they meet and he's explaining that he's the polka king in the Midwest.
Oh my God.
And he just keeps going on and on because he just wants a little bit of recognition. He thinks he's the polka star.
So good. He's basically like reciting a polka version of a LinkedIn profile to her to get her to like know who he is. It's so funny.
And she's clearly not a polka fan.
No. And he starts singing the songs and he's like really trying.
John Candy and Catherine O'Hara had been in movies before, and I'm not sure if they'd done like improv together professionally, but you're watching her wait for him to stop.
Yes, you are.
And she's just holding
letting
her face,
him go.
trying to do the whole yes and, but also just getting more and more impatient, like, oh my God, he's still going. This is still, wow, it just keeps going. And she's going to stay in character as a, really distressed mother, but you can just watch her hold it in to the best of her ability. And it's just like, oh my God, poor Catherine O'Hara. And then there's a scene at the end where they're talking about being bad parents. And he describes this whole scene of leaving his own child at a funeral parlor for a day.
Oh, it's so
and
funny.
Her face, because she's hearing this for the first time, just reacting to this, like trying really hard to stay in character, like, this is upsetting me, but like, don't laugh. Do not laugh at this.
The way he gives the speech is so brilliant. Or not speech, but the way he tells the story is so brilliant, because he's just like, oh yeah, we did that once and he was fine. I mean, after he started talking again. And it's like, so he has these like throwaway deadpan lines that tell the further
Catherine
story.
O'Hara is just turning her face away, just like, oh God. Oh no. But like, you can see the laughter is being like channeled into like, just look disgusted, just look horrified, just anything but laugh. Don't laugh.
And the funny thing to me is that Catherine O'Hara is one of the great ad-libbing actresses, and she just gives him the floor here.
Yeah, just let John Candy be John Candy. It's so funny.
He's one of those where he's probably in the movie for like 10 minutes, but he has this I have an outsized perception of him in this movie. To me, he's like of equal stardom in terms of he's like an equal star to any of the other supporting actors, even if he's barely in this movie.
Such a great scene.
Such a great scene.
Yeah. Has nothing to do with the movie almost, but
it really doesn't.
Good.
If you cut all those scenes, I think it would still be a fun movie, but it's he adds this little fairy dust.
All right, so we need to talk about the main event. The wet bandits are coming.
9:00 sharp.
This is Kevin's house.
Yeah.
He must defend it.
What is this called? The cross? Do your cross.
Yeah,
or something.
He crosses himself.
Yeah.
I'm not crossing myself for Kevin. I'm not really Catholic. It's, just my mom. So we need to talk about all of the things Kevin puts the wet bandits through, including what the best of all of these booby traps are.
Yeah.
And we get a montage, and I love a good montage.
Yeah, but this is definitely like the inverse of a cleaning montage, which as listeners, yes. Amanda loves a good cleaning montage.
I love a good cleaning montage, but I love a good, like, let's engineer a house full of booby traps.
I know. So fun.
Kevin's got a map, and you watch him putting things in places, setting things up, heating things up, laying it all out, but you're not quite sure where it's going with some of these traps. They don't show all of the booby traps, which I love. Yeah. So there's just, when everything gets unleashed, there is an element of surprise almost at every single turn. And Harry and Marv, being the idiots that they are, they face the first, trying to get through the doggy door, and Kevin's there with the BB gun shooting them in the crotch or in the face, respectively.
Yeah. We on this podcast, we love a good, kick to the nuts in a way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
This is that BB gun to the nuts. It was pretty fun.
You've got Joe Pesci yelling, fridge, 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 fridge. Because he can't say an F-bomb, but, this is an F-bomb moment. But I love that the two of them are so stupid that their immediate reaction to that is, let's split up. And they go in different directions. And it seems like Kevin's thought of that. So he's got two different courses that each of them needs to go on. Jess, what is your favorite of all the booby traps?
Yeah, so listeners, I asked Amanda this prior to record.
We're prepped. Yeah, we prepped ourselves on this particular topic.
I did ask listeners as well, but my favorite, and it was my favorite as a kid, is the icy stairs. So Kevin basically magically, within 20 minutes that he has to set all this up, hoses down both the stairs to the basement, which Marv goes down, and the front steps. And it's all just like that black or that clear ice. And it's the physical humor of them trying to walk up the ice, and they slip and they do the banana peel back. And then Marv goes around back and basically tumbles down the stairs because it's all ice. And for some reason, I find people falling to be really funny as long as they don't get hurt too bad. And I love this part.
Love when favorite. Marv falls, and they do this twice. He falls, and then his crowbar falls second. And hits him, and you just hear the,
So funny. What's also funny about it is that they don't even have to use the stairs. They could go around on the lawn, I guess, at least in the front stairs. But just seeing the physical comedy of it, my kids were howling laughing at this. And this is the first part where somebody's thrown out their back with these falls. They're so bad.
No, I remember as a kid thinking, this is taking on, it's almost like a Warner Brothers cartoon, very slapsticky and funny for children. But as adults, you can feel your knees getting sprained as they keep slipping on these things. Or you're dislocating a wrist wrist as you try to hold onto the handrail and you fall down the stairs again. Just so many injuries occurring in these scenes.
And I will also share that I once I wasn't trying to break into a house, but I fell on like totally like clear ice on the way to the metro once. And I fell, and then I go to get up, and I just didn't realize like how much the ice was all around me. And I did the Marv, like a banana peel slip, and I like tore my jeans, my bags went everywhere. It was so ridiculous.
I had a wipeout one time in Boston, total ice slick. I was walking to the MBTA, which is our subway, wiped out, and I previously had broken one of my legs.
Oh no.
And I wiped out and injured the other one. And I was like, oh, they're both bad now. And like this woman came running over and was like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, I need to call into work today. I'm turning around and going home after this. I'm defeated. And that was just one fall. These guys fall over and over and over again.
So what was your favorite gag?
So my favorite one, this may not have been my favorite as a kid. Like, I think as a kid, I really appreciated the iron coming out of the laundry chute.
Oh, yeah. That actually is still
great.
Pretty
That's
funny.
super clever.
Yeah.
You don't see him set that up. That comes out of nowhere where he pulls the light bulb switch and the iron
the fake light
falls
bulb.
on his
so
face.
Good.
But as an adult, I love, this wasn't planned, but Kevin grabs that tarantula when Marv has him by like the pant leg and just puts it on his face. And the scream that comes out of Daniel Stern
classic.
In that moment is
I'm
like
laughing just thinking of
that
it.
is the sound of like it's beginning to sound a lot like Christmas. It's unhuman the way he screams.
He sounds like a bird squawking.
Oh my God. That's my favorite. Just listening to Marv scream with the tarantula on his face. And I was reading as we were preparing for this episode, Daniel Stern made sure with like the animal handler for this movie that spiders don't have ears and that he wouldn't hurt the spider by screaming that loud with the spider right on his face like that. Oh, that's such a perfect moment of, it's spontaneous, but it's so good. So that's now my favorite moment.
That's your favorite gag.
Booby trap house scene.
So I did ask, before we started recording, I did put a poll on Instagram. So I asked people, okay, the fake light bulb, that was really like, meaning like you pull in the chain and the iron comes down. And that's why there's pictures of Daniel Stern's character with like the iron print on his face, which is in and of itself so funny.
And that one has such a perfect setup earlier because they're talking about how Marv is afraid of the dark. So
That's
know
right.
Kevin
So he
did
goes
that on purpose.
He goes to the light. So the option 2 was the hot doorknob. So this is getting, I guess, the welding thing to heat up the doorknob to basically make it super, like, essentially burning hot.
And I've never seen one of those used in real life, but I think they were used to start the charcoal on a barbecue somehow. But I'm not sure how.
Oh, really?
Like, we didn't have one of those when I was a kid, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah, we didn't have that kind of high-tech, whatever the hell that is in that house.
But heating up the doorknob.
So he heated up the doorknob, which is also a funny thing. And they like touch the door and they have to like run and like Harry sticks his hand in the snow. The icy steps, which is my favorite, and the tar stairs, which this one I was like, how are you going to clean this up?
Tar stairs with the nail sticking out.
And I was sad that I couldn't do all the other booby trap options. What do you think people like thought?
I will say I think it's Suede because I always also really love the Micro Machines bit where they just do feet over their head and hit the floor. I mean, that just looks so funny. And the paint cans are also really
And
excellent.
he also like the burning of the head.
Yeah,
when
they're
Harry
burning.
Sticks his head in,
like the glass ornaments in the window when he knows the shoes are going to be off. So yeah, there's so many options that we didn't get proper answers on.
I know.
I'm guessing the iron.
So the iron has 15%.
Okay.
That was tied with the tar stairs, also at 15%. The hot doorknob was 31%. And my favorite, I mean, I voted, but
icy stairs.
Icy stairs. But there were some who chimed in that the paint cans were also.
The paint cans are great.
That's not even all the traps. I mean, it was. The whole thing was like an insurance nightmare, essentially.
I was going to say, which of these traps do you think caused the most expensive injury? in the American healthcare system.
I guess the torched head.
Yeah, the burn. Although I don't know what you can really do about that because I don't think they're going to be grafting skin. I could be wrong though.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
I think the stepping on the nail is going to require a tetanus shot.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully no tetanus. Well, who cares? They're bandits. There was that lost tooth.
Oh, that's right. The lost tooth from the paint
can.
can.
Have your gold tooth.
I think stepping on the glass ornaments would be a lot of stitches.
That's a lot of stitches on your feet.
Oh, yeah. Painful. Oof. So another question. What is the hardest to clean up?
I mean, the tar.
The tar.
Unless he put some sort of mat down, and we didn't see him doing that, but like the tar would be a mess to clean up.
It would be. This is something else where it could go on too long. It could be too dumb. As a kid, I thought this whole scene was like an hour, but in reality, it's very short. It's like 10 minutes, maybe. Yeah,
and there's a lot of movement. Like they're progressing through the house and out the window and towards the tree house. You know, it could have gotten really boring the way some movies do battle scenes where they're just literally sword fighting in the same place for 10 minutes. But
right,
like, they're moving through the house.
Yeah, and it didn't get, I mean, of course it's unrealistic and ridiculous, but it was short enough that you don't have time to really care about that. Yeah. Whether, you're just enjoying it for the humor.
Go for the ride.
Yeah, you're just along for the ride. And so I thought it was like the perfect length. I mentioned how my kids were howling at the ice stairs. They were like you in the movie theater that you described. I mean, they were laughing so hard. They laughed for 10 minutes straight. And we've seen this movie before, but we watched it obviously recently, and still every time they think this is the high end comedy.
Everything was just so surprising and novel. I was dying laughing at this the first time I saw it. It was like the stitch in your side laughing, like I'm uncomfortable and I can't stop laughing.
And that was essentially my kids. I mean, they think this is the funniest thing.
Yeah, no, it still works. It still works.
Still works.
This movie did so well. I was reading they had to like pause all the other Christmas movies that the studio was going to release because they were just like, just let Home Alone keep going. And one of them was Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, really?
That was a Christmas movie.
I mean, I think this is one where you can imagine at the time, of course, you're going to go see it in the theater. But what's also interesting at the time is that, like, are there other than John Candy? I guess Catherine O'Hara, people knew her. She wasn't as household of a name, I think, as she is now.
Joe Pesci was definitely famous.
I guess Joe Pesci is the household name. I think kids' movies now, they'd have to have more star power than that to, like, take over weekends at the box office,
No, this was just the sheer reaction to the actual film.
Yeah, because it's so fun. Yeah, I'm sure people saw it multiple times in the theater.
Like, every week, Home Alone was still the number one movie. It was crazy.
You were so aware as a child of these things.
I just remember when things I liked were being mentioned on the news that, for me, it was like a small, like, validation, like, oh, the thing I like, everybody likes.
Everybody likes.
Like, I must have really good taste or something. I don't know. So we normally talk about things that suck or are cringy. Do you have any for this film?
Actually, I don't. I mean, I know I was joking around with the plot summary about, it's really about no cell phones or anything, but even looking back on that today, that didn't bother my kids. It certainly didn't bother me, obviously, now as an adult. And unlike the Ferris Bueller or other movies that I've had to explain answering machines or explain, I mean, I kind of had to explain plane tickets. They just sort of accepted it because there's so much else that they could buy into in the plot that it was fine. However ridiculous the plot is, that she can't get in touch with anybody and everybody's away for Christmas, like, I don't care. It's charming. It still does its thing. I think nothing is cringy.
The other thing that I always call out, and like I called this out when we did Adventures in Babysitting, Chris Columbus's other movie we've reviewed.
Yeah.
There's
another Chicago movie.
Much product placement in this movie.
Yeah, there is.
There's just all these branded items, and like, oh, that moment where he goes to the supermarket and is talking to the cashier. I forget which product he's buying. I think it's the mac and cheese. But he asked her, like, is this any good? And she goes, I don't know. And he goes, I'll give it a whirl. That's the actual like,
oh, is that the tagline?
That's the motto for that product.
Oh,
because I
didn't
remember at
know
the
that.
time it was like, oh, that's kind of funny that he said the thing from that commercial for that product he just bought.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, no, I, as a kid, caught that. And, like, it's always stuck with me. Like, he's actually quoting the commercial for the mac and cheese in that
I know
scene.
product placement bothers you all the time. Like, I kind of sometimes like it in older movies because it dates it in a fun way to
date
me.
this movie. Yeah, no, it's a definite time and place. And I would say they use it more cleverly than some of the other movies. Like, the line, Fuller, go easy on the Pepsi, is iconic. That's such a funny line. And just the face Kieran Culkin makes at that moment.
Like,
Kieran
with a giant cup of Pepsi, too.
Giant cup, he just, like, raises his eyebrows like, I'm going to wet the bed.
Drink all of this.
I'm going to drink it all and wet the bed later. That's Macaulay Culkin's younger brother, Kieran, who
it is.
We now know from
Succession, right?
Succession, yes.
I haven't seen Succession, but yes.
He's a total jerk in that show, but, like, appropriately so. I like Kieran Culkin's a great actor.
Does he occasionally like have a big cup of Pepsi just for fun?
I hope so. I haven't watched enough Succession to see that moment, but I really hope
I hope it's in there. Well, I think we've talked about a lot of great things, but what's great we haven't mentioned yet?
Oh, I've always loved the detail that the first thing they had to shoot for this movie was the fake movie Angels with Filthy Souls.
I pretty much went my whole life thinking that must be a movie. And it was like not till like a few years ago when I guess I saw like online that they shot that for this movie. I was like, that is really funny.
Hilarious. And like the actor who gets shot in that has gone around claiming he's the only person who dies in Home Alone.
That's funny.
Yeah. And even that's iconic. Like the keep the change, you filthy animal.
Oh,
like,
it's so good.
Oh, that's so funny.
I just also just like there's everything's great about this movie. I mean, what we've been saying all along in my mind, it's that it's not just a screwball comedy, and now you're picking out these details now that aren't even the main thing, but are fun. Yeah. You know, it just has so many things.
Like even the detail of, and there's repeated callbacks, but every time a vehicle drives up in front of the McCallister house, they hit that statue.
I know. The pizza guy, the police.
You just keep seeing people setting the statue back upright. Like that's so meaningless, but so funny.
So funny. And even by the end of the movie, you don't even see the car making contact with it. You just see them putting it back.
You just see like a low shot of a pair of feet and then the hands picking up the statue.
Fun.
It's great. Then there's also a small detail. So they, I guess, the one product placement they couldn't get was Little Caesars. So they have a competing Nero's Pizza.
Oh, yeah.
But the slogan that's on the vehicle is no fiddling around.
No fiddling around.
You know how like Nero like fiddles
on
a
yeah.
like,
oh my God.
That's such a fun
I never
little
noticed
detail.
that. That is a fun little detail.
It never occurred to me until this viewing, not the final line, but when the family comes home and asks Kevin what he's been doing the whole time they're gone, he goes, oh, just hanging around. And I realized because you have that scene in between with John Candy talking about the kid in the funeral parlor, but the previous scene was when Marv and Harry had Kevin hanging on the hook.
Oh, that's right. He was literally
kitchen.
hanging. Yeah.
It was just like, oh, that's what he's referencing. Like, I just got that. Like, because I always thought, oh, that's, like a funny, like, non-plus thing to say there. But no, he's actually referencing the fact that he was hung on a coat hook at the neighbor's house and nearly killed.
Right.
It makes me wonder, does Kevin, and I don't think by the time we get to the sequel, I don't think he's ever told his parents or anyone about any of this.
I'd love to watch like a sequel where Kevin McCallister or Macaulay Culkin plays like some sort of home security business owner.
I think there's a Funny or Die skit, or there's been a couple of commercials where Macaulay Culkin is playing adult Kevin in different situations.
Oh, that's funny.
One of them is him as an Uber driver, just chatting the head off the person in the back seat. Like, and then my parents left and they didn't even realize they left me. And he's just going on and on and on. And the poor passenger's just like, oh my God, my driver is crazy. What is happening? So there's funny. There's another commercial, I think for home security, where Macaulay Culkin playing adult Kevin is sitting down and just eats the bowl of mac and cheese because he's
that's funny. He never got to eat it
in the house. closing thoughts or anything left unsaid?
My closing thought would say, I guess it's more to say for those out there with kids, don't even hesitate. Just watch this with your kids. Like, there's nothing
offensive. There's one shit that Daniel Stern
who gives
snuck into the movie.
Who gives a shit about that? And
you
it's
don't
just
even hear
fun.
it, really.
Yeah, I highly recommend it, and you'll still laugh. Your kids will still laugh at all the right spots. I just highly recommend this. That I guess that's my closing thought, which is
Well, if we take that closing thought and go right into ratings, I think I know which way this is headed for you, but we should make it official.
We should. Any closing thoughts for you, though?
I was surprised that this viewing, I noticed all these things that I'd never noticed before, like the plane ticket, the thing written on the van, the thing about little Neros, we don't fiddle around. Catherine O'Hara's reaction to all of the crazy things being said about the child in the funeral parlor, like just those details just made the movie fresh again for me, and that was so fun. So that's my closing thought, is there's still stuff in there that I'm noticing having watched this dozens of times. It's still surprising.
I think being still surprising is a great review of a kid's movie.
If you haven't watched it in many, many years, you're watching it kind of with the mom's point of view in mind. You're seeing Kevin be annoying.
Yeah.
You're seeing yourself make the greatest, or not yourself, but you're seeing her make the greatest screw up of her life and react accordingly to that. And just having that empathy with the mom that I don't think we had as the kids makes this not a very different movie, but it just adds this whole level. And it
does, because I think that a lot of other movies play the adult characters as very one note, and that's not here. I think we're ready to rate this, which I think it's going to be. I think we know where we're going, and I just want to remind listeners. So we rate on a scale. First, we do. Does it live up to us as adults? It's a 1 to 10 scale. 1 being garbage, 10 being Princess Bride. What do you think, Amanda? What you got for me?
All right, so my adult rating, I'm going to go a 9.
A 9.
A 9. I am dinging it slightly because every adult character in this is mildly or severely incompetent.
That's true.
And I think if you were coming to this fresh, having never seen it before, which I don't think that person exists, but if you were watching this for the first time as an adult, you would wonder why the adults are so stupid in this movie.
I hear your point. I'm going to go full 10 for Living Up for Adults, which I don't think I've given a 10 before for Living Up for Adults. I'm typically a harsher rater.
I would say except for Silence of the Lambs,
oh, that's right.
That we keep that in a separate category because
we do.
That is not a kid's movie.
Not a kid's movie. I'm going to give it a 10 because I forgive all those things and still find it joyful and poignant at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. So, all right. So that's a 19 for, that has to be the highest.
The highest for any movie.
So our second rating is, does it live up, or do we think it lives up to kids today? Same scale, 1 being garbage, 10 being Princess Bride. What you think?
I am feeding off the reactions your kids had to it, and that they were laughing that hard, and then just remembering how much this made me laugh and how much I loved this as a kid. I don't think any of that is particularly dated for kids.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Going 10. I think this is a 10 for kids.
So I am also going 10 for kids, which is crazy. This is a 20.
This is the highest rated movie.
I can't do math this fast.
Higher than Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
Well, I mean, we had to ding Silence of the Lambs because, for kids today, it was a tough rating to do for Silence of the Lambs. But nope, you're exactly right. I don't think it's dated. I know I get swayed by my own kids' reactions, but I know other families who've seen this with their kids. Small focus group there of just, let's say, people I know. But I think that I'm confident it's not dated for kids. And I don't think it'll continue to be dated even moving forward. I think it's a classic. It lives up as a classic for kids. So perfect 10. Yeah.
Perfect 10. I don't even need to ask because I've got my spreadsheet here. This is the highest rated movie we've ever reviewed. Did it live up, Jess? I'm just going to type yes.
So just to remind listeners, we have to agree. And we have highly rated movies that we end up saying that it didn't live up. But I think this is a solid yes for me for Living Up.
Solid yes for me. Every Christmas, this still makes me laugh.
I might need to watch it again this holiday season.
It's, I would say, flawless for a kid's movie.
And so this officially lives up from the Live Up podcast. Not surprised, but we have been surprised on this podcast before for things that we feel this way about, that we end up deeming it not living up. So folks, if you disagree, or maybe I assume you agree.
I don't want to hear from the people.
Yeah, I don't want to hear from the trolls, but if you've got something to say, we're at Live Up Pod.
I don't want to text about your mock turtlenecks if you don't agree with us on Home Alone.
I know, right?
Draw the line.
Oh man, I don't want to hear about your, grumpies about plot holes. But if you do have them and think that maybe we've judged this too harshly, too well, too generously, at Live Up Pod on all the socials, come find us. Also, if you have other fun gags that we didn't mention, because there are so many gags, let us know your favorite. I'd love to hear others who also like the icy stairs.
Well, happy holidays, and we will be reviewing a few more holiday movies before the end of the year, so keep an ear out for that. But, how are they going to compete with Home Alone?
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
We'll see what else is out there, though. We should watch Rudolph again, just for
no, don't make me do it.